Okay, we're going to look into a little article on Armor of the World here. It's something I was definitely into whenever I was a kid, playing Dungeons and Dragons and so on. I got into it much deeper, even was given some books for Christmas and so on of it. Armor of the World, Weapons of the World, all kinds of things. And you see here in this depiction here a samurai or shogun type of helmet that has a big U on the forehead of it, and if you'll look, that's actually two birds, two eagle heads that are facing each other, much like you'll see in like this giant book that I have here if it shows up. And this is Art of Armor, and you can see his helmet too having the same type of depiction that's on it and the same type of thing. And this is thick, heavy, gigantic book, but just one of the many that I have, part of my collection for looking at these things. Armor class, whenever you play Dungeons and Dragons, just to deviate for a second, people, I'm sorry, is like the chance of a creature rolling a dice to try to hit you, because it's all just dice game, really, and percentages and so on. And so the tougher armor you wear, the less percentage chance they have to hit you. And you can wear something like leather, but leather doesn't have near the disadvantage of say chainmail or armor itself, like plate mail and so on. But then you can get magical imbibed armor, so you can get +1 or +2 leather armor, which ends up being just as good as chainmail, even though you have the ability to have that. You can look at a lot of these and they have strange masks on them. A lot of times they're demon-esque or somewhat, but some of them definitely have a different looking phenotype to them and larger chins and things along that line. But let's just look into this here. It's more than metal, amazing historical suits of armor. Armor was commonly used by warriors for protection during combat. In history of warfare, various types of armor have been used. Some of these, such as the lorica segmenta of the Roman legionnaires and the plate armor of the medieval knights, are well-known examples of these protective suits. Others are perhaps less famous and will form the subject of this article. The suits of armor will be divided into three types: those made of metal, those constructed using animal parts, and those made of even plant materials. Metal suits. Metal is one of the most common materials that was used in creation of armor, of course, for its protective properties. One of the major advantages of metal over many other materials is its hardness. This allowed armor to better protect its wearer from enemy attacks. Whilst metal is commonly used in material for armor, there are certain metal suits of armor that are quite unique. One of these is the Japanese tatami gosuku, which translates to folded armor. Its main components were an armored jacket, a foldable cuirass, a helmet, and a hood for head protection, and the other parts that correspond with this full suit of traditional Japanese armor. The unique feature of this armor was that it could be folded and packed into a small box, thus allowing to be easily transported by individual soldiers. And what this was referred to, strangely, is a suit case. And it may have something to do with where we get the concept of a suitcase, for it didn't just hold your business suit in it, sometimes it held your business suit in it. And we can see one of these here, and what it really is a chainmail effigy that you can see. And because it has larger segments in between each one of the plates, this could be folded up in some way, right? That's from the Edo period. Some suits of armor that utilized metal in their construction were further strengthened by animal parts. One example of this suit of armor is made by the Moro people of the Philippines. This war coat dates to the 19th or 20th century AD and consists of a chain mail reinforced with pieces of buffalo horn. And we looked at something like this and talked about it in the Greeks in the Philippines video I did recently, where it shows you the Greek armor and all their set that's there, and it shows you the symbology that goes along with it and the geckos and things. And of course, people mentioned that where do they get this concept of chainmail and plates is from a long time before recorded contact there was contact. So, and you can see that like in the style that's there. And so animal part armor too. Bone was also used as its own as a material for making armor. One such example suit is bone armor that was discovered during an excavation in Omsk, Siberia. This artifact was found to have been surprisingly well preserved It's thought to have been between 3,500 and 3,900 years old, and the suit of armor that you see here is basically cleaved bones in two, and then small holes drilled through them all and stitched onto a body. Can you imagine a skeleton coming at you, a pile of bones, and how that might have been fear-bringing to people? It's like, God, it's just like walking death here with these bones and stuff that a guy has. And another example of such type of armor comes from Ust-Poloi, which is also in Siberia. This suit, which is 2,000 years old, was found to have been using reindeer antlers. Both of these suits of armor were buried separately from their owners, and in the case, it has been speculated it has been intended to serve as an offering to the ancient polar gods. Apart from bones, other animal parts were used in the making of armor. One of these, for example, is a crocodile skin suit of armor dating between the 3rd and 4th centuries AD. This suit of armor consisted of a piece of body armor and a helmet, both of which were made from crocodile skin that was sewn together. It has been suggested that this armor was not used during combat, but during certain military-style ceremonies of the regional crocodile cult that it had developed from Egypt, and the idea of the protector god that's there. And of course, crocodiles are armored to begin with. You can see in the Bible and things where they effigize what they call a unicorn in the Bible, but that's a rhinoceros unicornus. And they tell you, you can't tame that thing, you can't do this, you can't do that. And that led to strange mythologies later when people were trying to attach it to something like a horse, because of descriptions sometimes of these creatures from far off lands that nobody knew about. But he has an armor built onto him. Elephants have real tough skin. People realize this when they've tried to kill him. So if they could take that skin off of him and put it on you, now you have it. Here's that dragon scale armor where you tried to kill a dragon. It's hard to kill a dragon. Then you put the dragon scale armor on you. They even take it to the point of like, well, dragons are immune to fire, so you put it on, so now you're immune to fire. See how that works? You end up imbibing yourself with the magic of that creature. Isn't this neat? This crocodile skin coat that they have made for this guy here. And this is a suit of parade armor used by Roman soldiers during cult processions, consisting of the helmet, cuirass, and both made of sewn crocodile skin. Another suit of armor that may have been used during the combat would have been useful as a symbol of luxury. It's a body armor made of pangolin scales. This was given by the Maharaja Daita to the now defunct India Museum in London. This suit of armor was ornamented with gold and had turquoises and garnets encrusted into it. And I don't know if you're aware what a pangolin looks like, but a pangolin is an armadillo-like creature, but it has scales lapping over each other. And this exactly looks like scale armor. It also looks like fish scales. And when they talk about Dogon and these fish people that came out of the sea that had armor on them that looked like fish scales, you might be able to see how this works together with each other. For the scales of a tarpon kind of look like King Arthur's smaller plate mail. So you have a smaller plate mail that's made out of smaller chunks that overlap each other, like in a pangolin. And then there are larger, bigger pieces that can go either over the top of that sometimes, but usually instead of that, larger, broader pieces, right? And in between the two of those, there actually is a dragon scale armor, which is a much larger scales all over the body, and a lot of times all over your warhorse. The use of plant materials, though. Plant material is perhaps an unlikely source of material for the manufacture of armor, but not necessarily. An example of such type of armor comes from Kiribati in Oceania region. This particular suit of armor, one of which was kept in the British Museum and another in the Pitt Rivers Museum, was made primarily of wood and coconut fiber or core. And so off on one of these islands, like in that picture there, and you can see this where they have tried out of what they had to make a good armor out of it. Tom Hanks and Castaway and try to make an armor, and there you go. It's made out of a fiber, but that fiber will stop a sword pretty easy, but it probably allows a good arrow to be able to go through it. and that's from 19th century. In addition, human hair was included for decorative purposes sometimes. Plant materials were also used by the ancient Greeks to make body armor. Between 600 and 200 BC, there was a type of armor known as linothorax, which literally translates as linen chest. It was highly popular in Greece as well as other parts of the Mediterranean. Whilst linen does not seem like the type of material that would protect its wearer from enemy weapons, modern constructions have found that it was indeed an effective type of armor. Damn, I need coffee. And would have protected a soldier from swords and arrows of that period. Better metallurgy and stronger bows that were developed during the 2nd century BC, however, made linthorax obsolete. And I was going to show you a piece of video here, but as I did, it ended up flagging it repeatedly. I had to cut it into pieces, and it really wasn't good, but you can look this up. They show you this linen armor that's folded back and forth and back and forth, and there's a piece of leather in the middle of it, and then another set of linen back and forth and back and forth, and through multiple layers pressed, right? And they shoot arrows into this thing, and it does not penetrate through. It does not get to the body on the other side of it. And these are the hard iron, small pointed, leaf-tipped arrows they're trying to do it with at the time too. Some of them even glance off of other types of armors when they're trying to detect, how good they work and so on versus type of weapon. And this guy that's doing this gets up within 20, 25 foot and just launches it into him, And but eventually, when you get a recurved bow and some more power, instead of it just penetrating barely and like going through and barely making it through and not really killing you, once you get that, if you can pass all the way through that blade, the rest behind it comes easy. So once we got more powerful and they could penetrate through and then continue, once they get to this point, it just goes through you. It doesn't take much pressure from that point to make it through that type of armor. And so it became somewhat obsolete. There's even some armor found in Eskimos like you see here, which doesn't look like a regular Eskimo's outfit in any way, shape, or form, but literally a type of armor. And you see this cowling thing that's behind him that almost looks like he's got a wind sail on and he's about to hang glide or something like that, but it's more of a protector or a shield behind his back that's strapped onto his arms at the time that he's holding it here, and so it protects his back while he's fighting from the front. And you can see multiple layered walrus hides and so on that are attached onto here, and of course it's hard for that to penetrate, especially when tanned into leather, and therefore we have a same type of concept. This is Chukchi walrus hide and wood armor from eastern Siberia with a back shield characteristics of Kuchi and Kormoros armors. And so a lot of different types of armor have been shown through time, but you can see that they're all mimicking that one concept. Some of them, though, the neatest ones I think are out of it, are ones that are actually mimicking animals which are actually armored in the first place. This turtle concept of a shield, right? Yeah, you can hold on to a turtle. Can you imagine a caveman holding a turtle? Does it go all the way back to there? Does it? Like, share, and subscribe, guys. Enjoy. Have a great day. Peace.